Let's talk about the next race, which is really the marquee event that we have coming up here. So it is the Purdue Marietta Challenge Cup, the 63rd event that we've had here. I believe Marietta has a commanding lead in this series. Purdue trying to claw back one by one. What do you think we can expect from this race?
Well, seeing as we had a little issues with the temperatures this morning, and we are now doing a 4 across with Purdue, Marietta, Cincinnati, and Michigan all in the same race. I think this is going to be a pretty interesting race to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a unique environment. They were told before the day started that they were going to have just a duel, Marietta and Purdue. Now, Michigan and Cincinnati, who are also going to duel this morning and have another race later in the afternoon, they've all been combined into one event. So there's going to be 4 boats across. The Michigan Wolverines, reigning ACRA champions, winners of the Head of the Charles men's collegiate 8 event, facing off with the Purdue Boilermakers. They've had a little bit of a rougher go. They competed at the head of the Eagle most recently in the fall, finishing behind this Michigan crew, as well as University of Virginia, Notre Dame. And so they've got a little bit of work ahead of them. There was about a 20-second gap in that race, and that was a head race. But this Purdue crew, and we'll kind of go down the lineup here. So we've got Grant Covey, the senior from Zionsville, Indiana, in the bow. Liam Connery, from Palos Heights, Illinois, in the 2 seat. Tyler Hutchinson in the 3, a senior from Duxbury, Massachusetts. Jack Gill, sophomore from Chicago, Illinois. Nick Taylor, junior from Dublin, Ohio. Nick Schmidt, senior from Westlake, Ohio. And you might remember Nick, part of the 2017 U23 men's 4 for the United States, and then 6th seat in our World University Games boat this last year. Forrest Stippert, West Springfield, Virginia. He's a junior, late addition to the crew here. A little bit different one that they had at their spring break lineups, but he is in the 7. And Travis Earp, the freshman sensation from Sarasota, Florida, 2018 Youth National Champion in the men's 8. He is going to be leading this boat down the course with Henry LaLiberty, the 2018 World University Games Cox, the junior from Duluth, Minnesota. They will be facing off with the Marietta Pioneers. They will have Dylan Del Pedri in the bow seat, Angelo Leitner-Wise in 2, Morgan Peary in 3, Brooks Spires in 4, Evan Odom in the 5, Michael Schrader in the 6, Ethan Schaffhausen in the 7, Chris Metz is stroke, and Chrissy Billingsley from Marietta, Ohio, the Marietta, Ohio native, will cox that boat. And then to the reigning champions, the Michigan Wolverines, first varsity 8. So that'll be Gage Smith in the bow, Nick Sweet in the 2, Ben Cater-Butel in 3, Caleb Brown in 4, James Anderson 5, Dan Jenkins in the 6, Jamie Pugh in 7, Kevin Hinkle in the stroke seat, and Rose Lewis will be the senior from Ann Arbor, Michigan. A lot of the natives are the coxswains for these crew 8s here. She will be the coxswain. Cincinnati, we don't have any information on their starting lineup. Fair to say, though, Charlie, we really should expect a bit of a fight from these top 3 crews. I think Michigan, they're the class of this event. We'll see how much speed Purdue has gained over the winter and the spring, but we have to expect that they're going to get out to a lead early at Michigan.
Yeah, this will actually be an interesting race for Purdue because it's their first race with Travis in the boat. Travis last season was on the freshman team, but because of his outstanding rowing, he was moved up to the varsity team, and this will be his first race at stroke seat with that team. I've heard that they gained plenty of speed with him in the boat over spring break, and that boat has been moving very well, just placing those blades and getting some good movement on the water.
Yeah, they've had a lot of good work over spring break is what we've been told. Crews getting in some practice starts right now. Really an anxious time for these guys. First spring racing of the season. You don't know how the boat's going to go together. You've been through the spring break. You've been through the agony of winter training. You're finally at the light on the outside. Talk to me about that feeling. What is it like finally getting back on the water after that long winter, Charlie?
Well, it's really... it can be anxious for some rowers. I know getting back on the water for the first time, not really being in the racing mindset for most of winter, and then trying to get in some pieces over spring break. But it's not the same as being on a real course. This is a real race. It's just a whole new mindset. And the one thing that all these rowers are grappling with right now is the weather, because it's hard to stay warm, but be in your warm-up phase where you're doing a lot of sitting, but not have too many clothes on so you don't get too warm for the race. And that's always finding that fine line. It's tough for these rowers.
Yeah, and it is an interesting equalizer, really, the elements, but you have to assume, really, that the Wolverines certainly won't be intimidated by that, being from even farther north than most
Definitely
of these crews. Marietta and Cincinnati, certainly not tropical climates. So all four of these crews will really be used to this weather. Most of them have had a race in this sort of environment before. Honestly, the exception might be that Purdue stroke seat, the freshman from Florida.
Exactly.
That could be interesting to see how he handles that, but good racing experience at a high level for him, so we're expecting good things. So as we see the crews make their way to the starting line, let's talk a little bit more about this Purdue boat. I mean, there's no getting around the fact that we're a little bit of Purdue homers here. Both of us, Boilermakers ourselves. Talk about Jack Gill, the sophomore, stepping into the varsity. It's a big jump for him. What can we expect from him in this race?
Well, Jack Gill has been making some big strides since he's moved on to the varsity team. His stroke was a little weak freshman year, but he always has had good strength behind it, and Coach Cusick has been doing a great job at honing his stroke, making sure his catches are nice, and applying his power really with the rest of the boat and getting him in sync with the 1V stroke.
Yeah. Dave Cusick certainly got a tall task, a pretty young stroke seat, obviously, and then the sophomore Jack Gill. And yeah, really, you get the ergs in the boat, the strength, the power in that engine room, the middle, 4, 5, 6, and refining the stroke. It's a season-long commitment that they have there, but getting that racing experience early, you really have to think that's going to be very valuable for him.
Definitely.
And we know that a very, very experienced really veteran Michigan crew, a lot of returning ACRA's champions in that 8, a lot 4 rowers from their World University Games. So this is going to be a huge test for all 3 of these crews to chase the champs. For Michigan, they're really probably looking to put down a solid piece, feel good about how they are coming out of the winter. Obviously, these crews are going to be chomping at their heels, but it's interesting to see how they're going to come out of the blocks. Probably going to be a pretty aggressive start from these 3 other crews, Purdue, Marietta, and Cincinnati. Michigan's going to want to settle into that heavy base. It looks like we're having the crews marshaled to the start line now.
Yeah, looks like we're going to start getting some racing in pretty soon here.
Marietta in that yellow Empacher shell, the only of its kind here on the course. It looks like we've probably got a Vespoli for Cincinnati there, and then we do have a Resolute for Purdue, and I believe a Hudson for Michigan, if I am correct.
Yes, I believe so.
So pretty good smattering of boat manufacturers here. Marietta is the only of these crews that is not actually a club team. So Marietta is a varsity program, and they'll go to the IRA later this year. Let's talk a little bit about Marietta. So this is obviously a historic rivalry between Purdue and Marietta. 63rd time that we're renewing it this year. But this is a Marietta team that their program is on a little bit of a rebound. The last few years they've been building back up from what was a tough 4 or 5 years after what was really some heavy dominance. The last time that this crew won Dadvale's gold was, I believe, 2006 when their men's varsity 8 took gold there. And then we had Purdue coming up on their heels. 2007, 2008 was really the haymaking for the Boilermakers there. So that was, really when a lot of this rivalry was in its prime. Most recently, starting to get a lot stronger now. Marietta had a good result this earlier in the fall race with Colgate, who finished very well at Dadvale last year. They were only 6 seconds off of Colgate in their race there, finishing second. So We'll see how they come out here. I think they're a little bit of an X factor. I think that it's possible that with Michigan in the lead, some of these other crews might be more focused on them. Marietta is out to surprise some people, Charlie.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Marietta's really been on the up recently, but Purdue has as well. They have a very strong varsity 8 this year, so it's going to be interesting seeing how this race plays out. I think it'll definitely be a close one.
Yeah, for sure. A lot more depth for that Marietta team as well. They're fielding 3 varsity 8s, which is something we haven't seen in a few years. Cincinnati is one crew we haven't really spoken much about, so their program is still working its way up into that upper echelon of club rowing. They've really had some solid varsity 8s recently. Depth is really the biggest thing that they've struggled with as a team, but getting their spring season underway here, they don't look undersized by any stretch of the imagination. They look like a varsity 8 that we have with us. I'd have to say, looking at the boats right now, Marietta's probably the smallest, from the outside looking in of these crews, but certainly capable rowers in that 8. And we're going to see a good race here. I'm excited to see what comes out. As we shift around here, it looks like we're getting our crews aligned. So in lane 1, it looks like we will have Cincinnati. Lane 2, Marietta College. The Boilermakers in lane 3, and the Michigan Wolverines will slot in on lane 4. They're backing in right now, and we will pick them up as they go by. Other crews in the marshalling area preparing for their race. Sun is just starting to peek through the clouds here, get a little bit warmer for the rowers. A little bit of a cross tailwind coming across the course right to left, but nothing too bad. Really pretty calm, not too much chop. Honestly, pretty ideal conditions for race.
Yeah, this is very good for Eagle Creek. Eagle Creek has a tendency to get a little windy, a little choppy. For the nice cold morning that we've had, this is definitely some good conditions, and the rowers are going to like it.
It is certainly fair to note that later on down the course that we're going to have some choppier water. It gets open, and they have a little bit more of that cross hitting them. But at least off the start here, you don't have to worry too much about a catch and crab. Having that misstep off the front end, you should be able to get out clean, get into your rhythm, and then we'll really see who can hammer the base the best. So the crew's getting aligned here. Referee asking the Cincinnati bow pair to tap it up, get us even. These are floating starts, so we won't be locked into any stake boats. So we'll have to kind of eyeball it, for lack of a better term, and see how close they can get it. And as soon as they're close, they're going to go.
Yep.
That's how a lot of this match racing is. And it looks like we're getting crews pretty close here. Marietta holding water. Purdue and Michigan tapping it up. Marietta a little bit farther ahead. This is always the dance. It's challenging for the officials. 4 crews across.
Especially with that tailwind trying to push them across the buoys.
Absolutely.
Definitely tough for these officials here to get them lined up properly.
It's a veteran coxswain group here. With the first varsity 8s, it'll be a little bit easier. As soon as you get into those freshman 8s, they can really be challenging. You'll see that all the time at larger collegiate events when you've got hundreds of crews on the water and you're trying to get races off every 8 minutes or whatever centers you set. Can really be challenging. We've got the crews here. They're sitting up at the catch. Blades flat right now. Still a little bit of adjusting going on. Cincinnati with the blades buried. The Wolverines on the outside, ready to go. We're getting close here to the start, it looks like. Crews sitting up ready. Marietta, 1 tap. Looks like we're going to go. Quick start announced by the official. The flag is up. The 2019 spring season is underway. Clean starts from all the crews. 3 on the outside. Michigan, Purdue, and Marietta away quickly. Michigan out to just half a bow deck lead. Marietta just about even with Purdue. Cincinnati falling back early. They're about a length behind already. Real tight racing in here. Good, solid start. Purdue settling into their base. Michigan still up, looking at around 35, 36 probably. Is probably where they're be basing out, but they're still into their high strokes. Marietta and Purdue locked in. No crews have stepped out yet. Michigan looks to have the lead, but not by anything too much. Boilermakers into the heavy swing now. Michigan on the outside, a little bit farther away. They may have veered away a little bit into their base. Neither of these two other crews have stepped off the pace, though. It looks like Marietta is dropping back slightly, but both of the Marietta and Boilermaker crews right up with the Acros champions. It's dead heat between the Wolverines and the Boilermakers right now. Marietta trailing just a bit. And now we see the swing from the Wolverines. Strong leg drive. Powerhouse in the middle is starting to kick in. The Boilermakers appear to be falling back just a little bit, but they're into their base. Locked in with Marietta. Cincinnati trailing on the outside. Good, solid start from all crews. La Liberty urging his crew on here. They look close. The Wolverines do not have an edge on the Boilermakers. It looks real tight here. This is more than we could have expected from the Boilermakers at this point, honestly. They look to be out to a lead at this point. Purdue up on Marietta. Certainly, it looks about half a length. An excellent race going here. Cincinnati falling back. They look to be about half a length of open water. The Boilermakers are up in the lead. Strong leg drive coming in here. The bow seats, Grant Covey urging his men on from the back. Henry, good solid start here. We're past the 500-meter mark. The Boilermakers have a half-length lead on the Michigan Wolverines. Marietta College trailing. They look to be about 3 seats down on the Wolverines. The Boilermakers are starting to stretch that lead. It looks to be almost a bow ball now. Purdue, long and strong through the base here. Outstanding rhythm. The Wolverines look a little bit short, a little bit flustered. They've been punched in the mouth. Can they respond? The Boilermakers are going to look to not give this up. The Wolverines are certainly going to surge back. They're going to have to hold strong. This race is a 2,000-meter race. You cannot win it in the first half. They will have to be resilient, and you know the Wolverines will give them their best effort. Marietta trailing now. It's open water back to Purdue. Open water up to Purdue, that is. The Pioneers, strong lead. Cincinnati trailing well behind now. 2 boats of open length. The Boilermakers are still surging. They look to be looking for the bow ball here. Wolverines still locked in their base rate. They look like they're biding their time almost. They're trying to claw back into this race. Blue trailing, not used to this position. The Boilermakers, undoubtedly. The adrenaline is running high. They can see the finish line. 1,000 meters away. They're moving in. Henry knows he's got to keep that crew going. Billingsley pushing her crew, getting the max out, and it looks like the Wolverines are starting to respond. Those middle moves are going to start to kick in now. They're going to take the best shot. Rose Lewis, Acra's gold last year. She's not going to let her crew go down without a fight. Kevin Hinkle's trying to push his boys, and here they come. The Wolverines are clawing back into this one. Cincinnati trailing well behind. Marietta looks to be about half length of open water behind the Wolverines, and the Wolverines are pushing back into the Boilermakers. Boilermakers looks like they're starting to get a little bit desperate here. A little bit of a reach for the stroke there. The stroke seat. Henry pushing those boys on. Travis Earp trying to keep the rhythm calm. Wolverines methodically trying to push back into the Boilermakers, but they are responding. Boilermakers holding a full-length lead on the Michigan Wolverines. Could we see a changing of the guard here? Charlie, you have to be impressed with the start from the Boilermakers here.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. The Boilermakers have just been walking through the other crews right now, but you never know. In these last strokes here, you can easily see a boat take back a length, and they could be right back in contention.
It's been a long time since we've seen a Purdue Varsity 8 beat a Michigan Wolverines Varsity 8 in 2,000-meter match racing. We could see history here today. La Liberty pushing his boys on. They can see the finish line. They're well within the 500-meter mark here. Strong push coming from the Boilermakers. They're walking away from the Wolverines. Trailing behind, the Acros champions. Not going to have enough room, not going to have enough racetrack. The Boilermakers full steam ahead into the finish line. We're going to see a changing of the guard here at Eagle Creek. 3 lengths of open water ahead on the Pioneers. The Challenge Cup well in hand.
Now, across the finish line, the last 250 meters, it's all adrenaline. Everything in the tanks is going to be emptied here. Unbelievable effort from the Boilermakers. The Wolverines trying to claw back. They're not going to have enough time. Closing in on the finish line. Splashes of the Boilermaker water, trying to hold on. Don't catch a crab now, boys. Here they come, across the water. Closing in on the full length. Bell ball lead. Splashes in the Purdue boat. Last 10 strokes to go. Marietta trailing. The Wolverines fighting. But here come the Boilermakers across the line. And they will take this race ahead of the Wolverines. The Boilermakers from Purdue. Outstanding row. Wolverines about a full length back. Outstanding effort. Unbelievable.
Here comes Marietta just now, about to cross the line.
There's trouble at the top, everybody. The Michigan Wolverines defeated by the Boilermakers. Full-length lead. Marietta crossing about 4 lengths behind the Boilermakers. 3 lengths behind Michigan. Cincinnati trailing. They are crossing. They've got about 3 more strokes to go. Tough conditions through the second half here. But boy, Charlie, that was an unbelievable effort from that Boilermaker crew. They just looked in control from the start.
They were on every stroke of that race. It was just very clear that they were determined to take that race from Michigan, and Michigan did not see it coming.
They did not. They got punched in the mouth early. The Boilermakers had confidence. They said that they were moving well, and by golly, they sure are moving well. They just beat the Akers champions from last year. It certainly is early in the season, and you know that Greg Hartsoff and his crew are going to respond, and they'll have a talk within their team, and they'll get them back on the right track. But man, that is an unbelievable result. For the first time in at least a decade, the Boilermakers have defeated the Michigan Wolverines. Outstanding effort here at Eagle Creek. There's a lot of experience in that boat, a lot of seniors, and they've been through the wars. And there are a few of those crew. Last year, the Purdue freshmen defeated the Michigan Wolverines as well at the Lubbers Cup. So you had a feeling that they really weren't as far off as they might have seemed. But man, a length victory here, really a remarkable result. Outstanding effort. The crew's now heading back. We'll catch you up on the next race. But for my color commentator, Charlie Simic, I'm Will Nogay. Thank you for listening.